This is the Young Family Podcast. All right, everyone, and welcome back to the Young Family Podcast. It is your host, E. Young, joined as always by my co-host,
the TBC.
Hello, TBC.
Hello, Eric Young.
How are you doing today?
Well, hanging in there.
Dramatic pause. More importantly, how are your hands doing?
They're not doing well.
Your poor tiny baby hands.
They're burning. I just bought Vaseline. I rubbed Vaseline all over my hands.
You did that last night. No, it was coconut oil, and then you slept with socks on your hands, like little mittens, like your George Costanza.
I started it, but it was a little bit too hard, so I just said, forget it.
You couldn't toy around on your smartphone. That was the real problem. Anyway, we got one heck of an episode today. Of course, we are still in the midst of the global pandemic of coronavirus. So our topics are going to be pertaining to that one way or another. But first, we'll lead things off with how coronavirus has impacted our children's daycare and how that has kind of created a new Daycare Dilemma for us. Yes, folks, that's right. It's Daycare Dilemma 2020, brought to you by coronavirus. We're also going to be doing the outside world, where we're talking about this stimulus package that Congress is going to be deliberating on, and how that could line your pockets with some money in the very near future. Finally, we will wrap things up with an email from a very, very special listener. We are, of course, talking about Gloria Young, my mother, and her opinion on our youngest, little Riley Brooklyn Young, who we profiled in last week's episode. But to kick things off, TBC, let's talk about Daycare Dilemma 2020 and how coronavirus has impacted it. What's going on?
Well, I want to start off by saying that we are going to try to keep this entertaining and lighthearted as possible. But we do think that it is very serious. So just a little PSA, wash your hands, don't touch your face, do some elbows. So up until today, I have been going to work.
Right.
And for the next while, don't really have a full return date yet. But as of right now, I am temporarily not working.
Is it considered a furlough?
No, not right now.
What is the criteria for it to be considered furlough? Is that just a government thing, or?
I think when the...
Oh, you're not being paid.
I think a furlough is when you are not paid, and I think it's when the employer says, we'll see you later, but for now, we're not paying you.
Right.
Have a nice day.
You have a job still, but anyway, okay, so continue on.
Yeah, so as of right now, I am not working, and but our child's daycare is still open.
That's right.
And I want to start off by saying that the daycare that we are in now is incredible. I mean, the steps that they are taking for the safety and well-being of our children. They have made some changes as far as pickup and drop off and children in the classroom.
I'm no longer allowed in the building, period.
Nobody is.
That's right. Yeah, I'm not saying that they're singling me out. That'd be rude.
Yeah, obviously. But anyways, so they have done a great job of preparing, making the changes for the safety of our children. And they are currently still open. They are following the CDC guidelines, and they are basically open, following the new criteria being, passed on to them. And so basically we have to make the decision of, do we send the kids to childcare on Monday, or do we keep them home? Even
though you're going to be off of work.
Yes. Now, technically, this is not a vacation because everybody are really not able to go anywhere.
Right.
All of the fun places are closed. Parks are closed. Our community pool is closed, and we live in a condo type place, so we really have no we don't have a backyard. Mm-hmm. So our fun activities are going to be limited.
For sure.
even just going to Publix or Target or shopping is going to be limited because I don't know if I would bring the children.
Right.
But do you bring the kids to daycare if they are still open, keeping the place open, keeping your child in a routine with friends that they like, with structure activities, with outside play? What do you do? Now, so Eric and I have gone back and forth a little bit. Do we take them? Do we not take them? And I am a very emotional person. I've had a lot of anxiety and worry over this coronavirus because I really can't handle the unknown, similar to like Elsa in Frozen.
She wanted to go into the unknown.
She was unsure. She was curious.
She was trying to like withhold her instinct to go into the unknown. You're no Elsa. Let's just leave it at that.
I should be like Olaf. Like one day when I'm older, I'll understand this one day when I'm older.
Right. Except Olaf tells himself that things are fine, and I don't think you've got that going on.
So we've just been debating what to do, and so part of me, I don't know. Right now, I think that you have kind of pointed out to me that there hasn't been any true cases in children, and with our school doing going above and beyond for the safety of our children, do I stay home and maybe clean the house for the first time in 5 years, or like how old is Jackson?
4.
Yeah, 5 years. So, because he's 4 plus my pregnancy.
Right.
And when I say clean, I mean like deep clean, like truly, truly deep clean, like organize the closet, like put away, all these, projects that I've been, on the back
I don't think
burner.
you'll be able to do it in a week, to be honest with you, because your process of cleaning something, especially closets,
is like destroy
everything first.
Yeah.
Cry in the middle of it because you're in over your head and you're overwhelmed. And then try and reorganize everything. And, generally that'll take about 5 days per closet. That's why it's been tough for you to get those things done for a while. But
so we're kind of in this dilemma of what do we do?
Oh, it's a dilemma, baby. I had spoken to you before we started recording this that number one, the decision starts with, do we think that the kids are at any sort of a risk by going to school? My personal stance on the matter is no. And that's not just from my own personal experiences of how I've seen the daycare center take all of these exorbitant precautions to make the place so sterile and clean and only have essential staff in there. And I'm sure that all of them are being as sterile and as clean as possible. And so I mean, it might be one of the safest environments for the kids to be in right now. But then you also add into that the Florida Department of Health and the CDC have recently specifically weighed in on whether or not they are going to mandate the closures of childcare centers, and they decided not to. And let me tell you, all of these organizations that are making these decisions on whether or not to close things down, they've pretty much been closing everything down that could have any sort of a potential risk. Even if a risk is not imminent right now in the moment, if it is ripe to at some point in the near or distant future become a risk, they're like, shut it down. They used all of that same judging criteria, analyzed the risk of childcare centers, and said, it's fine, leave them open, at least here in the state of Florida.
My head kind of plays with me because I feel like I'm like missing something if the school is not full because of the coronavirus, and should I be the one withholding like my child out of school as well?
See my previous rant. All of those facts compiled together, I say TBC, give yourself 1 week.
I think that I am leaning towards
And then we'll at least see where we're at, because things have changed so quickly.
Well, yeah, I mean, at
we're
that
going to know a lot more after a week.
Another update with my job. We'll get an update on CDC because things are constantly changing. You know, who knows what will be with the daycare at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you know, it does kind of like seem nice if if we knew that our child would be safe. I mean, our kids have been in school all this week because you and I have still been,
working.
told to report to work.
Yep.
And at the end of all this, I am hoping and praying and, that things will go back to normal, and as much of us will be able to keep our jobs as possible.
Absolutely. So I'm saying listen, like you said, this is not going to be like a Swiss picnic for anyone. It's not ideal conditions for you to have time off of work. There's a lot of uncertainty. So no one is particularly enjoying themselves right now. There's not a whole lot of good that is coming out of coronavirus, I think it's safe to say. But with all of that said, if we can salvage this entire situation with some small, itty bitty consolation of you having 1 week where the kids can safely go to daycare and you can be home and feel productive, or even just get the rest that you feel that you have been deprived of for the last 5 years, do it for 1 week. But of course, we are talking about it here on the Young Family Podcast because we would love to get the input of the listeners. What do you guys think about
what would you do?
What would you do? Because Carolyn prefers to listen to the guidance of an anonymous listener who emails us rather than that of her husband.
I will add that I am not the best stay-at-home mom. Not that I am, but the daycare does provide a lot of nice structure that I don't.
It's like, what kind of experience are we going to be comparing it to? Like, go to daycare where there's like learning activities, or stay at home with mom where there's
ABC Mouse and cuddles.
There's streaming platforms. A couple of different
I'm not
ones.
that bad, but yes.
I mean, listen, there's for any stay-at-home mom, especially if I continue to work from home, if you're like in it on your own, I mean, you gotta lean on those streaming platforms, man. I mean, that's why daycare centers have an entire staff of adults watching all these little kids. But anyway, hit us up, youngfamilypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you think about Daycare Dilemma 2020, the coronavirus edition. And with that, let's move on to the outside world. All right, everybody, and so this is the outside world. We are talking about an article from Politico titled Senate GOP to begin talks with Dems on $1 trillion coronavirus package. And though I'm crediting Politico because they are the journalism body that wrote the article, I'm also going to credit my brother's newsletter for circulating this article, and that is freepoliticalnewsletter.com. You can go and subscribe to his daily newsletter that will give you a roundup of awesome political articles. So anyway, that's where it came from, and that's the plug. But basically, TBC, we wanted to talk about this because there has been some discussion recently about so the economy, the global economy, has come to a screeching halt over the last couple of weeks. What would the federal government of the United States of America, the richest country in the world, do to help its citizens in a time like this? And of course, the ideas have been floated of a stimulus package. How are we going to get money to the people right now? So on and so forth. So did you hear earlier on in the week where they were saying something about $1,000 per person over the span of a couple of months, and they would give 2 different checks of $1,000?
Yes, I heard something along those lines.
So what we have now is a little bit more of a firming up of that idea and some real numbers that we wanted to talk to you guys, and especially the families with children out there, how this could pertain to you, because what they are actually going to be voting upon, they are going to be debating on right now, is $1,200 per person, as long as you made less than $75,000 per the last year's tax return, right? So that means for a married couple, that would total $2,400, right? So it's $1,200 per person. This is the other big kicker, is that this potential stimulus package would also include $500 per child. I wonder if there's a cap on the number of children you have.
Oh, man. We should have been like the Duggars.
I still would not have wanted to be like the Duggars just for this very rare instance that we might have gotten $500 per child. But the final element of it all is that just like Carolyn and I were talking about, there were kind of these rumblings of multiple installments like this. That means that, or excuse me, with this particular idea, it would only be one check. That's all they're talking about right now. So they're increasing the amounts a little bit, and they're including children, but instead of 2 checks, they're talking about 1 right now. What do you think about all this, TBC?
Well, obviously, if someone's going to put money in my pocket, I'm going to take it and say thank you. People are losing their jobs. People are being, furloughed where they're not getting paid.
Here's my raging libertarian streak coming out, too. It's technically our money being given back to us. So there's that, right? Now, in addition, we also had a little bit of criticism of the potential bill. And that was from this one individual, Lindsey Graham, right? And so she raises an interesting point. She was like, well, why would we be giving money directly to people right now? For instance, what about somebody who is continuing to work during this time frame, right? And they're still eligible to receive this money. Her stance on the matter was, wouldn't we want to just basically bolster unemployment right now? So people that truly lost their job are getting maybe even more money and more assistance in something like in a time like this, rather than someone who's continuing to work. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, if you are still getting paid, I guess then you're almost like getting like paid twice, or maybe like 1.5.
Yeah. I think it all comes down to like the way that they're kind of titling it, though, that it is a stimulus package. And by definition, all that means is like, well, we're not trying to bail out unemployed people. We're just trying to stimulate the government, or stimulate the economy. So that would mean that somebody who is continuing to work and they're collecting their salary as usual, and then all of a sudden, let's say that, they live in one of these households that could collect something like $3,400 out of nowhere, right? That's going to be really good for that family, because not only are they not experiencing economic hardship, thankfully, during this time, but now they just got this this bonus from the government out of nowhere. And so they're going to be more prone to spend that in some way. They're going to invest in something, or, make a big purchase, or who knows. But at a time where our economy just needs people spending, perhaps that family would be more prone to spend. So I kind of see where, the criticism is coming from with that. But, by definition, if you want to stimulate the economy, that's how you do it. You just put money in people's hands and they spend it. So with that, we'd love to hear your guys' opinions. As always, youngfamilypodcast@gmail.com. How would you like to have free money from the government? And what do you think the bill should look like if it does happen? With that, TBC, let us get into emails. Email. All right. We've got emails here, or rather just one email from one of the most special listeners of the Young Family Podcast, my mother, Gloria Young. We love when she writes in because she has, very unique insight on our children that many people don't. So not only did she hear the little vignette that we did on Riley in last week's episode, but she knows Riley a little bit, to say the least.
For those people who maybe missed last week's episode, we basically touched upon Riley at daycare. She's a little bit more feisty and unruly than Jackson was at this age. and we just had a few reports about her different behavior. So we just kind of touched upon that. So this is Gloria kind of responding to that.
Totally. She says, from the first time I started to care for her when she was just 3 months old, I thought to myself, this little girl is going to grow up to be one strong woman. I could tell that early in her life. She knows what she wants and she knows what to do to get it. She is no wallflower, not shy at all. Raising her will be challenging, but my advice to you would be that as soon as she is old enough to show preference in something she can be passionate about, in parentheses she writes, my guess will be music or dance, let her fill every moment with enjoying and building her talents in that area. Because once she finds what moves her, she will pour every bit of her strength into it, and that will be the key to raising her as well. Focusing her passion in something productive that builds more character and belief in herself. Hang in there, you guys are doing a great job. This too, then she writes in quotations, the number 2 shall pass. Well done. What a wordsmith, that mother of mine.
Yeah, I think also before I got the email from your mom, I was not worried, but kind of, I guess worried about how Riley would be, since Jackson just seemed to be so different. But your mom makes a lot of like valid points.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she is very independent. She does know what she wants, and she's still kind of like learning how to communicate.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
It does allow me to have like that light at the end of the tunnel to just kind of be patient during these months and years. You know, when she is old enough and when the economy is up and running, we can put her into dance or music, whatever she's like passionate about, and kind of I guess
maybe curb a little bit, channel a little bit of that sass
and energy.
And do you remember when we were thinking of names for Riley? And I remember one of the reasons that personally I liked the name Riley was because to me it sounded like the name of a strong and feisty woman.
Yeah, well, it's like a gender neutral name, so I think that's like part of it too. It was like feminine enough, but like strong too.
Right. And so I guess as Riley has developed into this little phase where she has this kind of personality that is garnering these kind of reports at daycare, it's interesting to me that I basically got exactly what I wanted out of her. And I guess all that to say, yes, I think that my mom made a great suggestion as far as like, and this goes for anybody that is in a similar situation as us, finding a thing for this child to channel all of her energy and her sass and all that into is going to be extremely helpful. But also, I think that with raising a young woman who is eventually going to be a strong and independent woman herself, I think I would prefer for her to have these characteristics of self-assurance, knowing what she wants, being strong, not being steamrolled. And obviously those are challenging to deal with when she's in her very, very young, just emerging from, being a baby and in her toddler years. But I think that later on in life, when she is a grown woman on her own, these are going to be awesome characteristics for her to have.
Before we close for today, do you know that the definition or the meaning of Riley means a luxurious or carefree existence?
Right, which I also remember looking that up when we were thinking about the name, and I was like, well, that is not really what I was going for. And then also, I don't think that that's what we wound up getting. I think she's not necessarily living the carefree existence. I think she cares an awful lot. For instance, like how many pretzels Jackson shares with her, or who gets to watch the tablet next. Those are things that she is very, very passionate about. But anyway, if Gloria's insight can, well, first of all, thank you to my mom for writing in. Thank you to anyone that has written into the show or would like to have their thoughts or opinions read here in the email segment. You can always hit us up at youngfamilypodcast@gmail.com to do so. TBC, let's take it away. Tell everyone where they can find us online.
You can find us at bit.ly/youngfamilypodcast. All lowercase, all one word. If you are still looking for a gift where you don't have to go to the store to buy it. You can buy our children's book Dream at bit.ly/buydreambook. Also all lowercase, also one word. Also, we'll be posting on Facebook, hopefully soon within the next week, a little bit of a coronavirus parody song.
Oh, yeah.
Written by yours truly. So, for those of you who are...
Wait, by you?
By you.
By us.
By you. So...
we're going to shoot the video this weekend.
Yeah, so stay tuned on Facebook. We're going to post that this weekend.
Oh, and we recently started a Twitter account. So find us on Twitter. Just look for Young Family Podcast. And we're there now.
Yeah, and if you have trouble, you can also look for, I think it's Podcast Young.
It's at Podcast Young, but yeah. If you search for Young Family Podcast, you should be able to get us. And so we're just now joining Parenting Twitter, and my gosh, it's been a bonanza. It has been so interesting joining Parenting Twitter during coronavirus quarantine and homeschooling. Oh my goodness. But anyway, we love you all for listening, and that's it for the TBC and myself. We're saying deuces until next time, and
bye!
This is the Young Family Podcast. This is the Young Family Podcast.